The Osee T7 is my favorite on-camera monitor for a number of reasons. It just blows everything else out of the water. But you don't always need a high bright monitor, and you don't always need a 7-inch monitor. Sometimes you actually need something smaller. So today I have the T5 here, which is basically like the less bright and smaller and cheaper little brother to the T7. Shows a lot of the other benefits, if not all of the other benefits, which is great, for about $200. So today we're going to get this out of the box and see what's included for that price. And we'll give a quick rundown of exactly how it works. But if you want to see in more detail, I have a in-depth walkthrough of the monitor's menus and functions with the T7, and it's pretty much identical. So I'll put a link to that down below. But anyway, let's cut to the chase. Let's get into it. Hey, I'm Scott and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, thanks for watching. We do all kinds of unboxings, tests, tutorials, reviews, anything photo and video related. So if you like today's content, please do consider subscribing and remember to hit that little bell icon to get notifications when new videos are uploaded. Jumping right into it, you can see from the picture that this is a very similar design to the T7, and this is a 4K monitor, meaning that it accepts a 4K signal. It doesn't actually display in 4K. 5.5 inches, so it's a little bit larger than a 5-inch screen, but with that kind of thin bezel around it on the top and the bottom, it's going to give you a much more low profile than this guy right here. And you can see from the picture that you do have one of those kind of tilting monitor arms as well, so if you want to use it on top of a smaller camera like a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, it's going to be right at home there, as well as maybe on a larger rig with another kind of monitor mount. But anyway, let's dig in. First up, there's the monitor itself, and it is much more lightweight than I expected. This monitor here is not necessarily heavy for its size, but oh my lord, the difference is phenomenal in terms of weight and also size. You can see right there how much smaller this is. So if you're trying to build a compact rig, but you still love the design and features of this monitor right here, the T7, this is going to be an amazing choice. It does feel a bit more plasticky, but then again, it's also less than half the price, so that's going to be expected. Things like the monitor mount on the bottom definitely still seem like they'll be solid, so even if you're using a tilt or twist monitor mount, then I don't think you'll have any problems. I actually really like that you have this recessed HDMI port here. It's a little bit protected without needing any extra cage or any extra clamp on the monitor. That's actually a really nice design. And you also have DC out there if you want to power your camera, which I know is popular maybe with some smaller mirrorless cameras. I personally don't do it, but you do have that, and that's also recessed in there and protected. Down at the bottom, you have connections for a remote. I'm not sure what that's about, honestly, but we'll check that out. And you have the headphone jack, of course, as well as an SD card, so you can, I believe, load LUTs and stuff into here, and maybe if there's any firmware updates, you can do that through there as well, I'm sure. You get a USB port for DC in, and then you've got your quarter 20 screw mount on the side here as well. On the top, there's nothing. On the back, you have a dual purpose battery plate, which is great. It means you can use both Sony NPF style batteries as well as Canon LPE6 batteries. So whatever you have on hand, if you run out of NPF batteries, you can just throw a LPE6 on there if you have one. Really, really nice to have that versatility in one single battery plate, as well as the release button for that and power switch right here. On the front, you just got the single joystick, and I'm expecting that this is going to work pretty much identically to its bigger brother, the T7. Again, if you want to see more details about how to make the most of this joystick, how to navigate everything, go through the pages, make customizations and stuff like that using the single joystick, then check my link in the video description below. So let's see what else we got in here. Instructions. We've got a sun hood with a kind of rubber slip-on design, which I actually kind of like. That's nice. I don't really like the Velcro type. Velcro always ends up coming off of the sun hood itself after a little while. This looks like it's going to be nice. Like I said, this monitor is not quite as bright as the T7. The T7 is 3000 nits. I believe this is probably somewhere in the 450, 500 range. I'll double check that and put it on screen. But that means that having this sun hood is going to help a little bit to use it outdoors. It's still going to be better to go for the brighter T7 if you're outdoors in sunlight. But with this, you can still use it probably on cloudy days and stuff like that, no problem. You've got the tilt arm, which has that cold shoe on the bottom as well as a cold shoe on the side, so you can mount a microphone or wireless mic receiver or whatever you need on there. And you've actually got 3 included HDMI cables, which is really nice. Usually they only include 1 or 2, and it's not always the compatible type, so you've got a full to full HDMI, you've got a mini and a micro to full HDMI. So that's really great that they included all of these, meaning no matter what kind of camera you use, you should be ready to go with what's included in the kit. So if you are using the included sun hood, there's actually these kind of little indentations at the back. It's actually raised, and then there's a space in the center of it. And that's going to be where you can slip that little elastic band from the sun hood, so that way it doesn't slide off as easily. It's not super deep or significant or anything, but it is a nice little touch just to show that they were thinking about the fact that they don't want this to slip off all that easily. Let's get a battery on here, get it on a camera, and we'll just give you a quick rundown of how this works. The screw mount on here, although the body itself is a little bit more plasticky feeling than the big brother, the T7, the screw mount on here is still solid. It doesn't put any flex on that plastic body whatsoever, so I have no concerns at all about the build quality or how this will last, even if you're using it with a tilt twist monitor where you're going to grab it and actually physically move it. That screw mount on the bottom should be just as strong as the one on the side, which is great, and not something I see in other monitors at this price. So switching it on, here we go. Let's see how long it takes to start up. Okay, very similar to the T7 there. Let's see, as I tilt this, yep, it does have auto tilt, which is nice on a monitor like this, except when I'm trying to show it to a camera that's above me. Anyway, this angle works for me right now. Anyway, so you've got the single joystick here, and just pushing it will bring up the tools that you have loaded, which right now we don't have any, of course, so click again to add a new tool, and it looks like this is pretty much the same selection of tools that you have in the T7, the big brother. So, you know, you've got things like your look, which is your LUTs, you've got peaking and focus assist, you've got your vectors, waveforms, zebras, false color, all of that good stuff built into here. Yep, it looks pretty much identical. You can set up multiple pages with different sets of tools. So the way that I have my T7 set up, for example, is one page with my LUT, with the center marker, with aspect ratios if I need them, with my focus tools for when I'm shooting. And then I have another page with all my exposure tools. So let's go ahead and just quickly set up an exposure page here. We're going to add that as a second page. So hold this joystick to the right for a few seconds and it will bring up the add new my set screen. Click to confirm. And then we've got page number 2 here. We'll add our false color. We're just going to leave it for now and add some more. We'll add zebras. We'll add a histogram. We'll add our waveform. And I'm not going to bother adding a LUT to this page because something like the false colors turns off the LUT to monitor the original image coming into your monitor. One more thing I do want to add for now is down at the bottom on the kind of second page of this list, and it's called the image resize or scale. And the reason that I want to add that is because when you turn it on, it leaves some space outside of the image as it scales it down, and we can put our assist tools like our histogram and our waveforms outside of the actual image so we can get a clear view of the full image while still having those tools on screen. And on a smaller monitor like this, usually I would not want to do that. But with this user interface, it's so easy just to go back to my page 1, which is going to be a full screen image with all of my focus assist tools and everything, and then go over here just to check exposure. So I don't mind that that's a smaller image. It's going to be the best way to get the most benefit out of this page while still seeing everything clearly. And turning on our waveform, we can jump into the customization menu by pushing right. And then we can change this from Luma to RGB. I like having RGB, so it's easier to set my white balance with the gray card, for example, in front of the camera. And I'm going to change the size to medium, to middle. And then I'm going to move this over to the bottom left side, for example. And now you can go one larger with this waveform, but when you do that, you can no longer see the numbers alongside of it. So I like to keep it at the middle size and put it right under the image. You can still see those numbers on there, which make it a little bit easier to assess. Now, one last thing to show you in this page right here is your false color. And this works just like the T7, which I've made a video about. And when you enable it, you can see now that it's on full spectrum, but you can also go through a range of different log profiles that are built into here, and it will show just key values, your key middle gray exposure and one stop over for that particular log format. So you can either find one that matches the log format that you're shooting with, or find one that just matches the way you like to expose your image. So red RG3, for example, this works with me when I'm working with the Zcam, and it gives me a good exposure value for my middle gray and where I typically want to expose at over one stop. One thing as a note here with that false color though is when you have this image scale on, you don't see the actual scale at the bottom for your false color. So if we turn that off and then turn off the waveform, which is in the way, you can see down here you have the scale to show you exactly where that green and pink value are highlighting for you in your exposure range. But once you go back to the scaled image, it's not there anymore. So if you're looking for that, that's how you can see it. As a simpler exposure tool, I find that this version of false color works well even without the scale at the bottom, and I like having it smaller with all of these other tools around the outside of the image. If I was using a full spectrum false color, I probably would prefer to have that scale on screen and I wouldn't use this same layout. This is a lot quicker and easier to nail your exposure. Just looking at people's skin tones, for example, or if you have a gray card, you don't have to decipher all through the colors. and have this crazy busy image, you can just boom, see exactly what's exposed correctly and what's not. Also, if you push up on that, you can zoom into 2 times and 4 times, and then you can click to enter that mode and scroll around your image. You can see where you are with this little diagram on the bottom. Click again to back out of that, and down to back out to your full frame image. If you want to adjust the brightness, then push down and you will get the backlight settings. Now we're at 10. You can go all the way down to 0, which of course is not very bright, but if you're indoors, you don't always need such a bright monitor and you can save battery life, but this is 10. Push up to get out of that screen. And if you want to jump into some more monitor wide settings, just push the joystick to the left for a couple of sides and it will bring up this menu right here, where you can adjust things like your volume, your backlight. Of course, you can do that faster from the main screen, which we just saw. You can control your rotation settings. Right now it's on auto, as we saw, but you can also do that manually. You've got your anamorphic settings, your DSLR scale. You've got your calibration, but from what I've seen with the T7, I expect that this should look spot on right out of the box. You've got things like your firmware update here, and this is also where you would load your LUTs in through that SD card. So just slide your SD card right into the slot at the bottom, click, and then click again to execute the load LUT file interface, and it will bring up this right here, and you can choose user LUT. That's where you would load your personal LUTs into, and then go into your device. These are the LUTs that I have loaded onto my SD card, and you can choose any of them to load into the monitor, and you have 16 slots where you could load them in. You can see I've already loaded a couple into here. I have user 1, 2, and 3 all loaded up, so I'm not going to do that now, but you would just click on the spot that you wanted to use, and then it would load it right into there. Click return a couple of times, and then you can go back to the main menu. Jump out of there into your main shooting menu once again, and then if you want to add your LUT, we'll go and add a new tool. Jump down to the look, and then when you click that, you can go into the settings, choose user, which is where we just loaded our LUT, and then you can choose between the 16 different user LUTs that you can load into here, and right down below that you can see the name of which one you are currently using. So you've got really easy and quick control of this with just a single joystick, which is what I love so much about the T7, aside from all the other great things it has to offer. Plastic and lightweight, but screw threads are solid. Again, not something you see on other monitors at this price. You've got a recessed HDMI port, which is great. A dual purpose battery plate. This is really, really compact and lightweight. Has this mounting arm here, or you can of course use the screw thread on the bottom with any other mount that you have. Really great monitor. I'm excited to have this and use it on a more compact setup. Maybe if I'm using my camera on a gimbal, for example, or if I'm indoors and I just don't need anything that bright. This is going to be a great partner for the T7. If you want to pick one up, then head on to the video description where I'll have a link for it, of course. And if you have any questions or comments, let me know down there and I'll do my best to get back to you. Otherwise, if you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, thank you for watching.